Apple's brand new iPhone SE4 is coming, and based on all the leaks that have been coming out recently, including full CADs revealing every little aspect of the design, I'm convinced that the SE4 will go down in history as the best Android alternative that Apple has ever created. So in this video, I'm gonna explain 3 things, starting with why I think this phone is gonna be so important to Apple, which features we should expect, and of course, the release date and price. But first, I wanna show you guys these brand new renders that I had custom designed and created by Shailesh on X, showing off this beautiful new redesigned chassis, matching Apple's modern lineup of iPhones better than it ever has before. So give some props to Shailesh for these wonderful renders. Now getting into the feature set, I first wanna show you guys the leaked CAD files that dropped just a couple of weeks ago by 91 Mobiles. Starting off with this first image, we can instantly see that the new SE is adopting basically the same exact chassis as the iPhone 14, which Mac Rumors reported on last year in November. This means that it'll come with a 6.1-inch display, which we still to this day have on even the iPhone 15 models, and yes, a recent leak from the Elec confirmed that the SE4 will come with the same display as we got in the 6.1-inch iPhone 13, which makes sense since it's a bit less expensive than the more recent displays. But going back to the CADs, we can see the flat-sided frame on the sides and a notch up at the top, which means that Face ID is finally coming to the SE4. Moving on, we can see a brand new flat-backed glass design, which is definitely welcome, and an absolutely huge camera bump, which will apparently come packed with a 48 megapixel main camera, which is gonna be a huge deal, as I'll explain in just a minute. And then of course, the microphone and flash right next to the camera. Now looking at this next image, you can get a clear look at the front of the SE4, and if you pay attention to that little speaker cutout at the top, we actually got a leak recently showing off screen protectors for the iPhone SE4, which look legit because the shape of the speaker cutout perfectly matches the CADs. Here's a side view of the buttons, and although you can't really see it, the iPhone SE4 will apparently come with the action button, according to Mac Rumor sources who said the SE4 is known internally as codename Ghost, packing an action button, which sounds a bit crazy on such a budget device, but that's what all of the recent leaks are pointing to. To me, it personally makes sense to leave the action button off and just stick to the old mute switch, especially since the action button doesn't even come on the iPhone 15, but Talos of Tech made a good point on X, mentioning that Apple could have big plans for the action button in terms of generative AI features. And then finally, let's finish off with the final CAD image showing the bottom of the SE4, confirming that it's gonna come with a USB-C port, which is expected at this point because of the EU laws that are now in effect. So as far as the design, this is hands down the best looking and most feature-packed iPhone SE model ever created, and that leads us right into the second part of this video, explaining why this iPhone is so important to Apple. The iPhone SE has always been Apple's budget model, especially in 2020 when the iPhone SE2 came out. But the problem was that at the time, Face ID was already getting very popular and almost like an essential must-have feature, and the SE2 was missing it. And then in 2022, the iPhone SE3 came out, and unfortunately, it kept the design completely unchanged, which in my opinion was a blunder on Apple's part because it still had the old Touch ID button and outdated 4.7-inch square display with massive bezels, while all of the budget Android phones were getting edge-to-edge beautiful OLED displays and at even lower prices. But now, for the first time ever, the SE4 is coming with a complete modern redesign that looks amazing, matching up to the designs of modern smartphones with its large 6.1-inch edge-to-edge OLED display. And finally, we get Face ID, which I wouldn't be able to live without since basically every app I use supports Face ID login. Of course, there's USB-C, which is a huge deal, especially to a lot of Android users who are thinking of switching over to an iPhone, making it so much easier to make the switch. And honestly, there's just not that much that you have to sacrifice by going with the SE4 compared to, let's say, an iPhone 15 or even the upcoming 16. The design looks fresh, you get USB-C, you even get the action button. But most importantly, at least in my opinion, it's rumored to come with the same 48 megapixel camera that we already have, which also includes the super impressive 2x crop mode, which greatly improves zoom quality, so it's almost like you get a telephoto camera built in when you really don't. So with that said, the iPhone SE4's design and feature set means that it easily competes with modern budget Android smartphones, but it comes with the biggest benefit of all, the reliable iOS software and the fact that yes, it's an actual iPhone from Apple. That right there is a big deal for people in other countries like India, where their tariffs drastically increase the price of iPhones. Like this Reddit user who said that the iPhone 15 Pro Max costs nearly $2,000 when purchased in India. So just because of the high prices and percentage-based tariffs in India, I completely expect the iPhone SE4 to become an instant bestseller in other countries with tariffs, and even here in the States, it'll likely still sell incredibly well. It's also pretty obvious by now that the tech sector isn't doing that well right now in terms of sales and revenue, with many tech companies doing layoffs to save money, and various companies that sell premium consumer goods also suffering from bad sales. Even Apple's own iPhone sales have been trending down for many quarters, especially this past quarter being down 24% year over year in China, which makes sense because of their ongoing recession, making it harder for consumers to justify expensive goods. So that is where the lower priced iPhone SE4 comes in to offer a modern iPhone experience at a much lower price. So with that said, let's jump right into the expected release date and pricing. First of all, I originally expected the SE4 to get released in April next month because it's been on a 2-year update cycle, with the SE2 coming out in the spring of 2020 and then the SE3 coming almost exactly 2 years later in the spring of 2022, and then that would perfectly match up to April of 2024. But apparently, back in January of last year, Ming-Chi Kuo mentioned that the SE4 planned for 2024 was actually canceled. And then a month after that, he said that Apple has resumed the production, so I think it was ultimately delayed until 2025, which later reports confirmed, like the one from the Elec. So I personally believe that the SE4 will come out in April of 2025, which actually makes sense if it'll be coming with the action button, seeing as the current iPhone 15 doesn't even have it yet, so it would make sense for the iPhone 16 to get the action button first before going down to the SE4. And as far as the pricing, Apple increased the price of the SE3 by $30 when it came out in 2022, and seeing as the SE4 is a massive upgrade with a brand new chassis, I would expect it to increase even more, probably up to $499 or maybe even $529, but it'll still be a great deal compared to the $800 iPhone 15 and upcoming 16. But overall, the iPhone SE4 will definitely be Apple's best Android killing phone yet. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you can subscribe above and check out one of those 2 videos right over there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.